And we'll begin with the work session. Call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mayor Ham,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak, Councilmember Rodway,
Here.
Councilmember Matthews,
Present.
Councilmember Gaylor.
Present.
Councilwoman Jones and Councilman Aycock were not here tonight. Okay, roll call. So adoption to minutes to the agenda. Does anyone have adoption or change or addition to the minutes they'd like? Excuse me, the agenda. Sir.
Yes, sir. I'd like to add one-to-one with Youth Incorporated free COVID testing at TC Cole.
Okay, and I believe if we have time at the end of the work session, we'll move the closed session up following item D that you just mentioned. Anyone have any-
Following consent agenda items.
Excuse me?
After D, we'll go to consent agenda
Yes,
items.
right,
and
yes.
then-
Does anyone else have any changes, additions they will make to the agenda? If not, have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Have a motion to
Second.
second. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, at this time, we have no old business, and we'll commence with the new business. I just want to bring to the council's attention that at our last meeting, we had Ms. Sharon Evanson and Susan McCullough from the LTC here that presented us a presentation or discussion on our audits. And they left with a suggestion that they would provide us some goals or requirements that they would like for us to look at and agree to support. You have in your packet a copy of the physical accountability agreement between the City of Goldsboro and the Local Government Commission. And I would like for you to, if you haven't seen them already, read through them, and we need to have your signature on this document before you leave here tonight. The clerk has the official copy. If you would see her and sign it, assuming you will sign it, then please do so. I've spoken with Councilwoman Jones and Councilman Aycock. They will come in tomorrow and put their name to this document as well. Is there any discussion amongst the council on this issue? If not, we'll move to item B, fire department retention pay, city manager.
Yes, sir. You also wanted me to mention that the FY20 audit is scheduled to be presented at the next council meeting on 7 February by our auditors.
Yes.
The council.
Thank you. So we should get hopefully a good report and a quasi final report next week, or at the next meeting, I should say. Okay, sir.
So the next item is fire department retention pay. Chief Stympian and I approved a lieutenant to captain transition that would be offset or paid for by roughly $23,000 or 2 part-time equivalent positions. And due to some recent departures of firefighters, Chief Stympian thought, and I agree, we should go a bit further with a 5% increase for firefighters and engineers. So I'm going to let Chief Stympian come talk about that.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Can I take this off?
Yes, technically it's good afternoon still, but go ahead.
Good afternoon, sorry.
Nothing could get past that mustache anyway.
We call that my N96. Thank you for your time. Much like the police department, the fire department is experiencing detrimental employee. In the past 2 months, the fire department has lost 6 employees to other departments. And even with the recent hiring of 7 employees, we still have 8 due to resignations. This is a result of pay policies not kept up with the economy or the surrounding departments. That was explained to me by the exiting employee. Further, the department's had 20 people resign since 2019. That's not including retirement. That is just resignations. Other departments are benefiting from the training and the experience we here at Goldsboro give them. They're staffing their departments with our training and our experience because they know when they get a firefighter from here, they're well prepared. Currently, 46% of our department has less than 5 years of experience. This lack of experience is extremely concerning because it could deal with firefighter safety for years to come. Overwhelmingly, the reasons given by those individuals leaving was inadequate salaries and lack of plans to advance in their pay rates, not because they were unhappy with the fire department. When I became chief, salaries was one of the most important issues that needed to be addressed. In an attempt to increase salaries, I created a plan, and I had it where everybody would be addressed in individual steps. However, these recent losses, coupled with ongoing hiring from other departments, is threatening to take more of our employees. It's why I felt it was important to increase the speed at which we implement this plan. As Mr. Salmon said, he allowed me to utilize lack salaries for part-time employees to fund reclassifying lieutenants to captains and adjusting existing captain salaries based on the current pay study to help ease some of the compression. With the circumstances we're facing, to proceed with my plan, I'm requesting that council give approval for the fire department to temporarily freeze 3 full-time positions to give a 5% raise to firefighters and fire engineers. Hopefully in the attempt to retain them, keep them from going elsewhere. The cost to implement a 5% raise for 39 employees. This will not include the 7 most recently hired and the other ones that we hope to hire soon, would be roughly just over $79,000. This action isn't taken like we don't like to freeze fire positions in the fire department. We already run as efficiently and as lean as we can, so we can still provide services to the citizens and maintain NFPA and ISO requirements. However, these losses are concerning, so I felt the need we needed to do something. And I believe the actions allowed by the city manager, as well as this 5% raise, will be a good base for the department moving forward until a pay plan can be adopted to address those areas. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for the chief?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question. This might be for Ms. Catherine, in regards to fire department. I know we have a procurement specialist in place, and but I noticed when I visited Station 4, they have a generator. Their station is just sitting on a wall that could probably bring us $3,000 to $4,000. I know we've had a situation with good deals. Could that money, like say, since just speaking on fire department specifically, because that's all I know that has equipment that they're not utilizing, but could certain funds, if it's a departmental resource and it's not being used and it can be sold, can that money be then earmarked to go back to that department specifically? If it was a resource that department used, how does that work?
Yes, sir, there's not a problem doing that at all. It just requires a budget amendment.
Okay.
So what we would do is we would appropriate revenue. Now, if we had already planned, if it was unplanned.
Yes, ma'am.
We can appropriate the revenue and then put budget back into that specific department. That's absolutely it.
Okay.
Since I'm here, just things like we used to do, get monies back for anything sold back to the general fund.
Yes, ma'am.
But I've since, if it's coming from the utility fund, those surplus monies go back to the utility fund, because that's where those assets generate.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we're trying to do a better job, but absolutely we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So quick, Captain, just one quick question. Just to clarify, the monies that the chief is talking about, the $70,000, that's coming out of the existing budget line for those frozen positions, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. I verified for the chief this afternoon the amount of black salaries that's available in 3 specific positions. So we would reduce those positions by whatever amount, and then we would fund the other 39 positions, chief, and that correct? You had 5% raise to the 39?
Yes, ma'am, it's 39.
Yes, sir, and he had enough money to do that, to get us through June 30th, 22. Fiscal 23 budget, obviously that's a whole different story, but we can do it through June 30th, 22.
So this is not related to the specific question. This question I'm about to ask is not related, but it is related to it. At what time coming up in the next 2-3 months do you anticipate having enough information, enough data from our revenue that's come in, through all sources to give us an idea about how we're gonna project or be able to project our next budget revenue.
So, typically, we don't get projections from the league until March 31. However, with the unit assistance criteria that we have to abide by, we're gonna have to have it done earlier. So my goal is, I'm gonna be projecting revenue sometime in mid-March. And it's still a little bit early because of the way that the revenues come in, because remember, as I've said, 75% of your revenue comes from sales tax and property tax. Property tax I could do pretty well because most people, are gonna pay by the end of January. Sales tax is a little tougher, it is a big chunk of what we're dealing with. But I think I'll have pretty good numbers to be able to start those projections so that when the manager starts meeting with departments, he has a better idea about how much revenue we have to play with. Because a lot of times it's April before I can do it, but I know I have to speed it up so that we can meet the deadlines for the LGC, which is mid-May. So we have to be about a month earlier. So I'm thinking like mid-March. That's my
Very
thought. Okay.
good, very good, thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Quinn, if I could ask one quick follow-up.
Yes, sir.
All of the funds that we're discussing right now would be traditionally classified as recurring funds, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Nothing that would be a single-time property sale. It would all be recurring funds that are currently budgeted as normally recurring funds.
And are you asking me specifically with regards just in budgeting in general, or you're talking about with Chief Stimpians?
With Chief Stimpians. specifically.
Chief Stimpians is recurring, so it's payroll that's lapsed.
Sure.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Mhm.
Anything else?
And one more thing, Chief. I took this note. You were saying that the department is basically has 5 years of experience as far as the people that are there now.
46%, yes, sir.
46%. And I think it's important that the public knows this because some of the services, like you said, the guys that, such as myself, have an 11-page transcript because of the technical rescue and what we invest as a city
Yes,
into
sir.
these people. And the general public needs to know that if we don't retain these employees, then they're not going to get the level of service. And it's unfortunate that people are leaving. So this is very critical that we do have a plan or formula to retain these people because, like you said, when they know they're getting somebody from Goldsboro that has had the level of training, they're saving themselves money in their county. They're utilizing our individuals, and I just want the public to know that this is vital because, for example, Swiftwater rescue training, those services when they're doing search and rescue training, high angle rescue, somewhere that happened to somebody at the water tower, we're trained in all those areas, and I just want the public to know that retention is very vital with this department. So
Yes,
I
sir.
stand behind you. 100% on.
I appreciate that, because you're right. Anything else?
Any other questions? So, the manager has a prerogative, and authority to do this, but I think, the council would like, I think you would like council support on this. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Just looking for your general concurrence. I don't think we need a vote, but I
Okay.
wanted you to be aware.
Does anyone
As
not
long as,
have-
long as you don't
not
disagree,
support
we'll
this?
move forward.
Can we just show of hands, those that support it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, I
Thank you.
appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the next item is the council retreat. As you aware, hopefully you're aware, we have a council annual retreat on the 22nd, 23rd of February. A copy of the current proposed topics was included in your packet. I would encourage you to take a look at this, but also more importantly, or just as importantly, if you have something as a council member that you want to add to this, please let the manager know. If you want to talk about it tonight, fine. But if you have something you want to add, do so soon so we can get prepared for it.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't want to be out of order and just add it to the agenda, but since you just mentioned that, I did want an item of Juneteenth
Yeah.
to be addressed as a city holiday, to be added to the discussion during the retreat,
Okay,
if that's not in,
yeah, we can add that.
thank you.
You got that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Anything else anyone wants to propose? This is not a deadline. It's not that if you don't do it tonight, you can't do it. I'm just trying to expedite the process so that we can get the agenda for the retreat. Okay, enough said on that. We'll move to the item D, one-on-one COVID testing at TC Coley Center.
Yes, sir. One-on-One with Youth Incorporated is located at 307 Beach Street, Goldsboro, North Carolina. And the points of contact are Danny King, James Powell, and Lucius Smith. This nonprofit organization was founded in 2007. It helps with mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment. They received some CARES Act funding to assist with providing COVID testing in Lenoir County at the Holloway Recreation Center, which is operated by the Kinston-Lenoir County Parks and Recreation Department. And they've reached out to Goldsboro to see if we would do the same at one of our facilities. So Parks and Rec is recommending we authorize them to use TC Coley once a week. They should be doing on Wednesdays, and they could offer another day for testing if the need is out there. I don't know if you've been to Goshen Medical Center or any other places, but there have been long lines of people trying to get testing. So I think this is something we should definitely support. In the past, we have supported nonprofits doing good work in our facilities and on our grounds. So it's not a fundraiser or anything that we would charge for. I just want to make sure you're all aware of it. If you're good with it, we'll approve it.
I think it's a good thing that we actually put a good use of that, use that building for some good purpose. And it helps our COVID situation. I'm absolutely in support of it. Anyone else want to speak?
I know had to go out in that area, and the lines were all the way back to the end of the road, down by the UNC Part Hill. It was unbelievable. And it was there that way all morning. So, if we can help, I say let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do it. Yes, sir.
Okay, let's move to the consent agenda at this time. Mr. Manager?
Operating budget amendment, Catherine?
Good evening, Mayor Council.
Thank you.
Okay, so my first item is an operating budget amendment for fiscal 21-22. And council adopted the operating budget amendment at the June 18th, 2021 meeting. At this time, we have included an operating budget amendment for a transfer out from the Stormwater Fund into the Stormwater Capital Projects Fund of $640,000. We discussed this at the last meeting to fund projects, and we'll also talk about it with the Special Revenue Fund. So this is the operating fund contributing a portion towards those capital projects. So this is kind of the catch-up, if you will, for that. Also included is a transfer from the utility fund into two grant project ordinances that we have attached for your adoption tonight. One is for the asset inventory and assessment grant. It requires a $4,500 grant fee. It was a $300,000 grant with a 1.5% fee. We can't fund that with grant funds. We have to pay for that out of pocket. The other is for the multi-system merger regionalization feasibility study, or the MRF grant. It was awarded at $100,000, 1.5% fee, so that fee's $1,500. So these transfers, both out of the Stormwater Fund and the Utility Fund, will be funded with an appropriation of fund balance. The total out of the Utility Fund, I did not mention that, is $6,000. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay. So my next item is a grant project budget amendment for the Stormwater Capital Projects Fund. At the January 10th, 2022 council meeting, council was presented kind of a brief history and an update on the Stormwater Fund from its inception to date, including a discussion about the different capital projects that those Stormwater Fund revenues were intended to fund. At that time, a professional engineering agreement with CDM Smith was authorized to be executed with a total cost not to exceed $1,567,900 for the entire length of the project. And for the period ending June 30th, 22, due to funds availability, that amount was not to exceed $1.1 million. The Vine Street project, which was being done with our forced labor, was also approved. So as I mentioned at the last meeting, I'm bringing forth this budget amendment to actually appropriate the monies so that assessment and mapping study of the 1.5 million funded to up to I've got it as 1,088,000 for this fiscal year can be done. And then also appropriating the funds so that the Vine Street project can be done, because I know they're ready to start ordering materials at this point in time. So that's essentially what we're doing, and how we're funding it is we've got the transfer of the $640,000 coming in. There's not quite $300,000 there already. And then when I brought it to council to adopt, we put the difference in contingency. So what we're going to do is reduce the contingency and now fund the mapping project. So that's what all of that means in there. I mean, if you have any questions, I know that gets a little complicated, but that's essentially how we're funding it.
Any questions? Okay.
Okay. My next item is authorization of sale of jointly owned property for 306 North Carolina Street to Miss Ballard and 611 and 613 East Spruce Street to Miss Ross. So Wayne County has requested a concurrence by the city for jointly owned city-county property at 306 North Carolina and 611 and 613 East Spruce Street, which was obtained through tax foreclosure. The county conducted the sale under the upset bid process, and they approved it at their December 21st, 2021 meeting. And now they need the city's concurrence in order to execute the sale. 306 North Carolina, the buyer is Miss LaShawna Reed Ballard. She is the adjoining property owner. The sales price is $2,000. The tax value is $3,900. 611 and 613 East Spruce is Miss Stephanie Ross. The sales price is $2,400. The tax value is combined $5,140. And so at this time, what we're asking is we have prepared a resolution to declare the property surplus and authorize city officials to execute the instruments necessary to transfer ownership. And you'll have that in your consent package. Any questions? Good? Okay. All right, so my next item is to establish a grant project fund ordinance. This is for the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Water Infrastructure. This is part of the Viable Utility Reserve Program, and this is the Asset Inventory and Assessment Project, AIA. We were awarded on September 16th 2 grants. One was the AIA grant for water for $150,000, and at the same day we also received another letter of intent for an AIA grant for wastewater for $150,000. So it has a 1.5% grant fee, and so that total we transferred in. That was the item that I did first, and we cannot pay for that out of grant funds. So it's a total grant of $300,000, and then our portion of it we will fund with a transfer from the utility fund. Now, I have prepared a resolution, one resolution for the city council to accept the $300,000 grant. That's first. And then the second item is a project budget ordinance so that you can appropriate the revenue and the expenditures so that the engineering department can start working with the engineers on executing the grant and the requirements.
Our cost is $450.
$4,500. Yes, sir.
$4,500.
Yes, sir. $4,500 total. Yes, sir.
For a $300 grant.
For
$300,000
yes,
grant.
sir. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good return there. We're definitely leveraging dollars, so staff did a really good job on that. Okay, my next item is establishing a grant project fund for the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Water Infrastructure. Again, the Viable Utility Reserve. This is the Multi-System Merger Regionalization Feasibility Study, MRF for short. The council authorized city staff to apply for the grant at the June 7th, 2021 meeting. And then on January 13th, 2022, we received a letter of intent to fund. The Wayne County Partnership MRF project, again, this had a 1.5% fee. It is a $100,000 grant. Again, I have attached a resolution for the City Council to actually accept the grant award. And then we have, after that, a project budget ordinance to appropriate the revenues and expenditures so that the engineering department can start fulfilling the terms of the grant with the engineer.
And $100,000 cost us $1,500.
$1,500, great return on investment, yes, sir. Your staff, the engineering and public works and public utilities folks, they did a really good job on getting that, so,
Good.
yes, sir.
Thank you, Bobby.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then I think my last item is accept or reject initial bid and authorize finance to advertise for upset bids for 808 and 800 West Grantham Street from Arista Development LLC. Staff has received an offer to purchase on this city-owned property, and council must either accept or reject the offer. And if you accept it at this time, when you come back to the 7 o'clock meeting, you have a resolution that will authorize finance to advertise for upset bid. The offerer is Arista Development LLC. The offer price was $800,000. The bid deposit was $40,000 received in the form of an out-of-state cashier's check. The parcels included in the offer, 808 West Grantham Street, which is 4.41 acres with a tax value of $681,000, zoned highway business. The other parcel is 800 West Grantham Street. It's 0.11 acres with a tax value of $2,500, zoned as highway business. The offer is at least 50% the tax value of the property. We have received the bid deposit. The offer has additional terms and conditions that it wishes to negotiate with the city if it is the winning high bidder in this upset bid process. The resolution has been drafted such that it will allow for city staff to negotiate the final agreement and for the mayor to execute the final contract or deed for closing if the original offer is the winning high bidder. I do want to mention that the offer is a duly organized company registered with the Massachusetts Secretary of State. It has not been authorized to transact business in the state of North Carolina as of the time that I prepared this last week. Also, please note that CDBG funds were expended to demolish and clean up the old Gold's Inn Hotel in 2014 at a cost of $250,971. These funds would need to be reimbursed to the CDBG Special Revenue Fund and could be used for any allowable type CDBG expenditure that are related to that fund. Any remaining proceeds would be credited to the general fund and could be set aside if the council wished or spent in any way that they wished. It is not restricted in that manner. So just at this time, I would just ask if the mayor could either get an acceptance or reject of the offer, and then if you accept it, the resolution is in your packet for the 7 o'clock meeting.
Any questions on this?
How long's it been since we've been trying to sell that piece of property?
Yeah,
Long time.
got to shake the heads.
Okay, so everybody is in agreement with accepting it then?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Okay, we got-
Catherine, I'd like to thank you for the incredible amount of detailed work that went into that. I know you did a lot of coordination in addition to handling all the budget-related stuff every day, in addition to handling the audit, so thank you. No less than 6 items. Bobby.
Good afternoon, Bob.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Welcome back. So to reiterate what Ms. Gwen just stated for consent agenda item H, item K, which is what I'm presenting, is for authorization to contract with Withers Ravenel for the service of providing an asset inventory and assessment study for both our water and wastewater systems for the city of Goldsboro. The city, as Ms. Gwen stated, the city received 2 separate grants from North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, one through the Wastewater Reserve Fund and one through our Drinking Water Reserve Fund. Those 2 grants were in the amount of $150,000. I just love to keep highlighting that. For the total grant money of $300,000. And I appreciate the kudos, but that work was started before me, before I took over. So it really does go to engineering department, public works, and public utilities departments. A great effort, but we appreciate that. So with this agenda item, staff is recommending that City Council adopt this agenda item's resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Withers Ravenel to perform both of those studies in an amount not to exceed $300,000. And I can field any questions if needed.
But let me just, for the sake of Councilman Gaylor and anyone else who may, can you just give a broad, objective overview of what this is going to include?
Absolutely. So both, the overlap with both projects, so we have one for our water system and one for our wastewater system. Both of these studies will update our existing models for both of those systems, be able to provide an assessment of the quality of the infrastructure based off the hydraulic characterization of both of those, what's in the field. It will also, the end product will allow us to have an updated CIP plan for budgetary reasons. That's going to outlook about 10 years. So we'll have an updated list of what projects we need to be paying attention to and where we need to be focusing our efforts on. And also there will be an operations and maintenance plan to ensure proper maintenance of what we have in the field now. So anything that doesn't really rise to the level of needing replacement, it will help us kind of focus our attention on what we need to do from a day-to-day basis.
This was an agreed process with the state, and so far as funding, for us to really get a good idea of our total water sewer system, not only here in Goldsboro, but how we support the adjacent cities that we provide support for.
That's right. Since Ms. Gwynn kind of touched on it on item I, consent agenda item I, engineering staff will be bringing back contract documents in the near future for the MRF, the Merger Regionalization Feasibility Study.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all the consent agenda items. I assume you've seen the department monthly reports. Does anyone have any question or issue they want to bring up? If not, I would like to get a motion to close the open session and go into closed session for economic development and potential liability, potential litigation issues.
Also like to discuss a personnel issue.
And personnel, so 3 items: economic development, potential litigation, and personnel issues. Could I have a motion to go into closed session, please?
Make a motion to go into closed session based on the 3 topics that you discussed.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? We have none. So this time we're going closed session. Please vacate the chambers, please.
Really?
I have a question though. I couldn't see, there was an article or something that said that it was gonna be moving to Goldsboro.
There was.
That's what I thought.
So what's,
There was an, that's the article he was talking about. The
That's
fact
what I
that
thought
there
it
were
was.
quotes
That's
in
what I
that
thought it was
article
going.
from people who knew better is a whole different issue.
That's what I thought it was going.
Yeah.
she says,
That is the specific article that never should have happened.
Okay. Wow.
I don't think so. I was over here tripping, I was like,
No.
I thought,
No, you're not in the twilight
Okay.
zone. You're just in the twilight zone. You're just where we are.
yeah, I was over here tripping. Okay.
No, you're not in the twilight zone.
Now, let's turn those up too.
Yeah, they are.
No, turn these on.
Hey, Ashley.
She thought,
Hold.
We're trying, she's trying.
it's not on Facebook.
Hey, Ashley.
Hit the power on them joints.
It's not on Facebook.
Yeah, just turn them off.
Hit the power on them joints.
It's not on Facebook.
So cool. They gonna keep looking here till they make a song.
We're back in open session. Go ahead.
So we're backing up the session.
Yes, we're back in open session. So if you want to recess, you can just recess until 7 o'clock.
I'm waiting till somebody comes in.
up if she wants
Time for a
to.
second without masks.
You can go up if you want. You can go up if you want.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, why don't you say a few things about this young man?
Jay Sean's been with me, a little over a year on A shift. He's go getter, works hard every day around on the street. And like, city manager mentioned, he still finds time to give back to the community, so we appreciate everything he's done.
Thank you guys. This tonight, I actually thought I was supposed to come here to talk about Goldsboro. I was not expecting this. I love what I do. I love being in the community. I love my job as a police officer, and I really appreciate it. This means a lot to me. Thank you.
So there's another surprise for the police department, so Major Leonard, don't go anywhere. Supervisor of the quarter for second quarter fiscal year 21-22 has been awarded to Major Paige Leonard for outstanding achievement. Major Paige Leonard has been with the Goldsboro Police Department for 29 years and has worked her way up to the Major of Operations. She goes above and beyond no matter what position she holds and promotes a tireless dedication to the Goldsboro Police Department and City of Goldsboro. Major Leonard stays late most days to complete assignments and projects and is on call 24/7, answering the questions or issues when they arise. She is very well respected by both her colleagues and her subordinates. Major Leonard gives advice and constructive criticism to motivate, encourage, and mentor in a way that employees are receptive and want to improve. Major Leonard's character is one that everyone would wish to have in an employee. She's honest and fair, kind and professional, positive and encouraging. Major Leonard went to another department to see their exemplary K-9 unit. She came back with the new ideas on how to take Goldsboro's K-9 unit to the next level and is working to try to make this happen. She's always looking for ways to improve the department. Major Leonard often cooks delicious dishes and goodies for the officers who are working on holidays to make sure the officers know that they are not forgotten or taken for granted. She voluntarily came in on New Year's Eve to work the streets and help with the overabundance of calls. It is so encouraging for officers to have her support, and they recognize that she does so much more than what is expected. Major Leonard shows dedication and service on a daily basis, always setting the bar higher for herself and others. Major Leonard's work ethic and accomplishments reflect well on herself and the city of Goldsboro. Thank you, Major Leonard.
So, yes, I kept the secret from Deshaun, not knowing any of this. Thank you. I am taken back by the words, and I'm not sure who all prepared that, but I do definitely appreciate that very much. So thank you.
I really appreciate you.
Yes, sir, thank you all. Thank you.
Take a photo.
They know I don't like photos.
You want to keep your mask on?
Sorry, we have to prove you don't want
That sign your check there.
One of the things that the citation doesn't speak to is, she's a pretty daggone good, I'm using nice words here, pretty daggone good photographer too. Those of you who follow her on Facebook, you see her beautiful photographs all the time. And I do follow her. So to speak.
So, I am taken back, I'm highly taken back. I think we've been rushing around trying to take care of Deshaun and honor Deshaun, and I didn't get a chance to tell everybody that he is awesome. I did his background, and he's been serving the community since he was in high school, and probably before that. And so we did not teach that. He already had that embedded. We're just fortunate to have him. But on my behalf, I'm highly taken back, and I appreciate the kind words, and they all know I love them. My food's not that good. But they eat it anyways. But thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Paige.
All right, the Employee of the Year Award goes to Jamie Metz, Computer Systems Administrator 2, for outstanding achievement. As a Computer Systems Administrator 2 in the Information Technology Department, Jamie significantly exceeded expectations by completing the additional duties of Department Finance obligations and administrative work while conducting her Computer Systems Administrator duties in an exemplary manner. Most importantly, she assisted with fiscal year 2021 budget preparation and fiscal year 1920 year-end closeout that led to an increase in department funding to address the ever-increasing IT needs of every city department. Additionally, during this period, Jamie worked diligently on her professional development, achieving her associates in applied science, information technology, IT business support. She also received a number of support and office system certifications to include MS Office Specialist in Excel and Access, complimentary TIA Network, and Fiber Optic Basics. She's awaiting the following certifications: CompTIA A+ Fundamentals, IT Business Support, Database Support, Hardware Software Support, Operation System Support, Systems and Hardware, and Windows Operating Systems. Jamie's exceptional dedication to the city, professionalism, and focus on internal customers, the city staff, is highly commendable. She's often overlooked with tasks, often overloaded with tasks, and at times overworked, working extensive hours during the week and on weekends. But she always approaches her work with a smile, positive attitude, and confidence that has made the IT department and other city departments better. Jamie Metz's accomplishments reflect well on herself and the city of Goldsboro. Thank you, Jamie. Take a photo and then maybe Scott can say a few things and you can say a few things. Incredible IT department. Scott, please.
Jamie won't say it to you, but the things she was waiting when it was written up, she finished those certifications and got those accomplishments done, so she deserves a hand for that. We have a good group of folks, you get to hear about, I'm in a minute, but we have a good group of people. Can't say enough about it, but Jamie feels good about that too. She works really hard, and she is service above self every day, so we can't say enough. Thank you very much, Scott.
Got anything to say, Jamie? Supervisor of the Year Award has been awarded to David Lee and Brad Innett. When the city hosted the Raleigh Lax Fest at the Bryan Multi-Sport Complex in November 2020, facility plumbing issues led to the complex manager to personally call David for help. David was at the complex on Saturday night within 10 minutes and had a vac truck on site within 30 minutes. David stayed on site to keep the system operational until after 11 p.m. During the process, David assessed the cause of the problem and contacted a plumber. They were both promptly on site at 6 a.m. Sunday morning. David answers calls after hour every time and continually shows up knowing what has to be done. David shows his elite competence and performs his duties with courtesy. He's a pleasure to work with and someone that can be called in any situation. David consistently strives to set the example, takes pride in his work, and gives 100% all the time. David's accomplishments reflect well on himself and the city of Goldsboro. Brad goes above and beyond the call of duty every day. Having to adjust to a new way of life and operational procedures for the city due to COVID-19, Brad responded in a highly efficient, exceptionally timely, and utmost professional manner. through every virtual meeting, adopted new ways of utilizing technology. Brad enabled the city council, citizens boards, and employees to accomplish their mission with the transparency expected from local government. Brad has looked for quick solutions that are cost-effective and able to be implemented on short notice with minimal impact on the end users. He has been involved in all aspects of setup and operating the technology behind the scenes. Since October 1st, 2020, IT staff have set up 264 virtual meetings, which includes council and board meetings that are streamed live and staff meetings. Brad has worked extensive hours to ensure these meetings are supported by IT staff. He has always proven to be adaptable and has maintained a positive attitude through it all. Brad and Nat's accomplishments reflect well on himself and the city of Goldsboro. David and Brad, thank you very much. I much appreciate your work as supervisors of the year. Once you guys get in the center here, we'll take a picture and then this way. Much appreciate the work.
I just want to tell you thank you, everybody. I take my job very professional. I try to do my best. My motto is, I know y'all recognize what I've done. My motto is, it's part of my job, and I like my job. So thank y'all so much.
Rick, did you want to say something?
Most definitely, David. A prime example of the go-to guy for almost everything. You call him, he's there. In fact, we've just gotten off for Christmas break. Was it the first night or the second night?
First night.
You got called out that night. And with this job, I mean, with distribution of collections, with water main breaks and sewer lines and everything else, it's never opportune. I mean, it always in the middle of the night, but every time I go to the site, he's here, his job, and he's working hard. Anytime we need him, then he's always here. I can't say enough about it. I appreciate all of this.
Well, I'll say thank you very much for this. I have to thank also the staff in IT, because like tonight, Cheryl's in there doing the meeting so that I can be out here, and I do appreciate that, even though I did get called in on the bullpen tonight. But hey, new technology, that's always, we had a new box in there tonight and it was messed up, so why not? But anyway, I want to say thank you very much. Scott?
I will say, I commented earlier about staff being great in IT, and I think that's, I can't say enough how glad I am to have the website. And Brad is a great example of that, and COVID was a huge change for all of us. It was a big impact on us, and it would have been really, really hard to do it without him. He was a key person involved in all things that we did, get people to be able to work from home, get the meetings to be published like they're supposed to be, make sure that went right. We had everything recorded in line, and I believe we've done quite a bit more after that 200 and some now. But again, I can't say enough thank you, Brad, about it. He's well liked within the department and the city, and he's an example of what an IT person should do. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just saw some of Goldsboro's finest employees, and they just represent, they're just a small portion representative of the total people that we have that works for the city. They come to work every day. They come to work to perform a service for the citizens of Goldsboro, and I'm very proud of them. I'm always proud to stand by and see them get acknowledged for the work that they do. So let's move on to public hearing. We have a public hearing tonight for the County of Wayne for a above-ground fuel dispensing facility. And if you want to come and speak to that after the presentation, you'll have to be sworn in by the clerk. So planning, come on up and give the presentation.
Good evening.
Hey.
Dave, sir.
Council, if you'll give me just 1 second, we'll get started. Okay. So again, good evening. As the mayor said, we do have 2 public hearings tonight. The first being the County of Wayne is proposing an above-ground fuel dispensing facility on the north side of Wayne Memorial Drive in the northeast corner of 8th and Humphrey Streets. County of Wayne is requesting a special use permit for the operation of above-ground fuel dispensing facility to be located at 901 8th Street and with the General Industry Zoning District. According to the city's Unified Development Code in Section 554, special use specific regulations, an above-ground fuel dispensing facility, or what we classify as a storage of flammable liquids facility, is a permitted use in the I-2 zoning district only after the attainment of a special use permit approved by City Council. On November the 1st, 2021, the Goldsboro City Council concurred with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and approved the change of zone for the subject property from office and institutional to general industry zoning district. The site is owned by the County of Wayne and is formerly known as Wayne Facilities Services. More than half of the property currently serves as a fleet maintenance facility for county-owned vehicles and equipment. The remaining portion of the property is undeveloped, consisting of woodlands. The approval criteria for these type facilities, as you see before you, most of them of these requirements are dictated by the North Carolina Fire Prevention Code. I'll try not to get too deep with it. Going to the second page, the dike will be required around the tanks unless they are double walled in construction and meeting the fire code. A security fence at least 8 foot in height, 3 strands of barbed wire or razor will be required for the facility. Again, if there is a yard area between the fence and the rear or side property lines, there will be additional landscaping. The majority of the property, as you see on our previous slide here, you can tell is already being occupied by woodlands. The county would like to use, to the greatest extent possible, the existing vegetation there to serve as the required landscape buffer for the proposed site. Again, to the bottom of page 2, the submitted site plan indicates the proposed location of 2 above-ground fuel tanks shown between an existing county-owned communications tower, a fleet maintenance facility, and a southern property line. The site plan indicates the fuel dispensing facility will be gated and surrounded with security fencing as required by our UDO. Staff has been informed by county officials that 1 fuel tank will consist of 12,000 gallons of gasoline fuel, and the other fuel tank will consist of 12,000 gallons of diesel fuel. At this point in time, the County of Wayne only wants to move forward with the gasoline fuel dispensing tank. If the project is approved, they will come back at a later time that's appropriate for them to install the diesel fuel tank. Both fuel tanks will be provided with canopies for protection against elements of the weather and bollards for protection against accident vehicular collision. Access to the site will be provided by a 20-foot wide driveway cut from 8th Street. 12-foot wide private access drive will allow county employees to enter the site for fuel dispensing purposes and exit the site through a terminus located at the intersection of Humphrey and 8th Street. The proposed use does not require any additional parking, does not require any exterior sidewalks, and interconnectivity is not required due to the fact that we have incompatible land uses that exist between the subject property and property directly to the east. Engineering, city water and sewer are available to serve the site. It is not located in a flood hazard area. Landscaping, again, we're going to try, or the county's going to try to use much of the existing woodlands to serve as an existing opaque buffer for screening purposes, meeting our landscape requirements. No action is necessary by the board tonight. The Planning Commission will have a recommendation for the council's meeting on February the 7th, 2022. Are there any questions of council?
Okay, this is a special use hearing for the above-ground fuel dispensing facility. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak? Okay, there's no one coming forward to speak on that item, SU 1621, so we'll move to SU 1721. Funky Fresh Donuts.
Yes, sir. Funky Fresh Donuts, the location of which is on the south side of Caswell Drive between North Spence Avenue and Eastgate Drive. So as most of you know, Funky Fresh Donuts is a made-to-order donuts, coffee, and pastry shop for dine-in or take-out services located in the Crossroads Plaza Shopping Center and is formally addressed as 2830 Caswell Drive. The business is requesting a special use permit to expand and modify the existing business into a cocktail, dessert, and coffee lounge. According to the city's Unified Development Code in Section 554, special use specific regulations, the proposed use will be classified as a place of entertainment with ABC permits in the shopping center zoning district. The place of entertainment with ABC permits is allowed in the shopping center zoning district only after the attainment of a special use permit approved by City Council. Approval criteria for places of entertainment with ABC are as follows. Number one, the establishment shall be located within 200 feet of any residentially zoned or developed property, church, or school. No establishment shall be located within 150 feet of any other such establishment. Of course, number two, outdoor activities associated with the place of entertainment must specifically be approved as part of the associated review and approval process. Number three, upon complaint from any person or if there is a finding that there has been an increase in the volume, intensity, or frequency of the use or use different as set forth in the special use permit, the reviewing body after a public hearing may modify, suspend, or revoke a special use permit. Under discussion, the applicant has submitted a modified floor plan that you see on our screens tonight that indicates the existing donut shop with in-dining facilities that accommodates up to 14 occupants, including a walk-up order pickup area, a kitchen, storage, and restrooms for patrons of the business. New leasable space on the floor plan shows a bar that will serve up to 8 occupants and a lounge area with tables and chairs that can seat 14 occupants. Storage areas for supplies and refrigerated frozen goods as well as bathrooms are shown as new additions to the modified floor plan. So if you're looking to the right, you were to split this illustration in half. On the right is where the existing Funky Fresh Donuts is located. Just to the left of center is a seating place for patrons of the business to sit down and enjoy their coffees or pastries and donuts. To the left of that area is where another second entrance is located, where there will be additional bars, additional tables and chairs, and a bar area accommodating up to 8 additional spaces with additional storage space and freezer and cooler spaces as well. No additional requirements apply to this special use permit. However, approval will be required from Wayne County's Environmental Health Department pertaining to food service regulations and from city inspections pertaining to compliance with the North Carolina State Building Code. The days and hours of operations are Tuesday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Sunday 12 noon to 6 p.m. The proposed dessert bar and lounge will be Tuesday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Again, this is a public hearing, so no action is necessary. Planning Commission will have a recommendation for the City Council meeting on February the 7th, 2022. Any questions of council?
Any questions? This is a special use hearing for SU 1721 Funky Fresh Donuts. Does anyone wish to come speak for or against? Anyone wish to come speak for or against? There being no one to come forward, then I will close the public hearing session. At this time, we'll move to the public comment period. This is an opportunity for anyone come forward. You have 3 minutes to speak on whatever subject you wish to speak. The time will be shown on the screens here. I appreciate your abiding by the schedule. So if you'll give your name.
My name is Dr. David L. Craig. I came here to speak to you briefly about a document that I found in doing my research concerning wastewater treatment system and the water treatment system of Goldsboro. And this document was actually addressed to Mr. Salmon from the North Carolina Division of Water Resources. And what particularly interested me was that 4/5 of the way down on page 2 and again on page 8 of this document, it states the facility is looking to close some of the basins due to concerns for Seymour Johnson Air Force Base runways. The basins are planned to provide habitat for large migratory waterfowl. I'm concerned because when I read this document, this was the first time I had heard of it. And 2, given that there is proposed spending of some $35 million on a new 3.1 million gallon basin, citizens need to have a more fuller understanding as to why is this the case. We also need to know where the council and city management stands. Thank you.
Anyone else wishes to speak? Yes, sir, come forward. If you identify yourself.
Can you pause this time?
Yeah. Anyway, should get it up there. My name is Willie Beck.
Start your time over again.
Oh, there we go. Anyway, my name is Willie Baptiste. I'm not here to talk about this. I live at 1403 North, 1403 East Elm Street. The house in question that I've come here several times about is on Lemon Street, and it's 1402. I've sent you, Mayor, some pictures. I don't know if you got them.
Yes, sir.
I've talked to my council person about this issue, and I don't want to go into discussion about it anymore. Y'all know what the problem is, and we just have to find a solution to this problem. What I do need to talk about is I did canvass my neighborhood and talk to residents in the neighborhood. They're in full agreement with me. Some of the ones I did contact that we need to have something done about it. My neighborhood is a good neighborhood. It's beautiful, got some beautiful homes, but there are some homes in our neighborhood that are following the same line as this, but not as bad. This house, and the reason I say that is because when you have a house that the city doesn't do anything about it, the owner doesn't do anything about it, this kind of thinking spreads amongst people, you know, that they have the right, and it's all about rights, a right to do anything they want, and nobody say nothing about it. They're protected by laws. I don't know if this house is protected by laws, but, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but I have motivated myself toward getting a change done to this particular house. That's been one of my torches throughout my years. I've done it everywhere I went. When I see a problem, you know, I want to deal with it. You know, I've been told in some cities, one of the last city I live in, Montgomery, that if I didn't like the way things were doing, I can go back to where I used to live, and I don't do that. You know, I'm not afraid to challenge things, but I do need to know. The last problem I want to tell about, one of my neighbors wants me to make sure there is a home in our neighborhood that is housing inmates. Her concern is the community, I don't know if there's a law about notifying the community when we have homes like this or predators or anyone that moves into the neighborhood. How is our neighborhood protected against situations like this, you know. But her concern is very, you know, she's an elderly lady, and she has concerns about her safety, you know. And I have reassured her that, you know, I will watch out for her just like everybody else watches out for me. That's basically it. Hope I don't have to come again about this house, but I will continue to try to keep in contact with you and you about this house.
Mr. Batiste, I did get the photographs, and I believe that our planning department is working within their codes and in the legal means to do what we can to that house.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Miss, while you're still standing, I guess I have to ask Mr. Townsend, in reference to the house that he was referring to earlier, the lady called me today. Is it not an ordinance that the public or anyone in that proximity, if there's a transitional prison house that she says she's seen inmates dropped off and they live in this house, does not the community need to be on alert because they have children in that community? I think one of her concerns is, you know, they don't know if this is a house that houses sexual predators. I don't know if somebody's just being advantageous and using this as a property that they're renting out and using, allowing inmates to use that space. But I just want for clarity for that to be expressed to her because she's watching tonight. Is that not a zone issue for that to be enacted upon, for that to take place in the community?
Oh. Councilman Pollock, you're exactly right. With regards to certain facilities like the ones that you were speaking of and Mr. Batiste, we classify those type facilities or specially residentially supervised facilities. They come under the classification of special population housing. There are certain special requirements that have to be met before these homes can be used as such. Of course, they have to be located in residential zoning districts, and they have to be spaced within a quarter mile, no closer than a quarter of a mile from any other approved residential housing facility containing a special population resident. So I would need to talk with Mr. Baptiste and get some clarification on the address of the property. We can verify that it's either is or isn't an approved location for one of our special POP residences, and then from that point forward we can take necessary action to either seek compliance or ensure the neighbors that everything is up and up and the residents are being supervised accordingly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
I'd like the council to have the city manager and attorney about that.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In the last council work session, Rick Fletcher, Director of Public Works, gave a presentation regarding the Stormwater Utility Program. In it, he talked about the Stormwater Stakeholder Committee the city established in 2017 to serve in an advisory capacity, and how they held 5 meetings to discuss the state of our deteriorating stormwater drainage system and the need to raise revenue for repairs to maintain the system. The committee agreed additional revenues were needed, and they recommended that the council assess the $4.50 monthly fee for residential water users, and that rates for commercial users would be increased also. With the revenue generated from the $4.50 a month fee, they recommended that a mapping and engineering assessment should be done first, and in conjunction with the ramp-up period that would involve hiring additional personnel and purchasing equipment. Mr. Fletcher's report, he indicated the revenues received from that rate increase that began in July 2017 through the end of fiscal year 2021 have been used to increase staffing, to purchase equipment, and to do ditch maintenance, mowing, pipe repairs. He presented a wish list of projects for completion in the future, and at the top of the list is $3 million to do the mapping and engineering assessment, none of which has been done to date, even though it was the first item the Stormwater Stakeholders Committee recommended the fees be spent on. The city has collected over $6 million in revenue since July 1st, 2017. What puzzles me is why was the mapping and engineering assessment not the first things that the $6 million was spent on in conjunction with the hiring and purchasing of equipment? I'm also puzzled why council over the past 5 years hadn't questioned why none of the public works funding you approved went towards the mapping and engineering assessment. Has anyone on council noticed the revenue numbers reported by Mr. Fletcher for the past 4 fiscal years? In the first year, when the residents paid 12 months and the commercial users paid fees for only 2 of the 12 months, revenues were approximately $1.35 million. In the second year of fee revenues, when there were 12 months of fees paid from residents and commercial users, the revenues only increased about $160,000 to approximately $1.5 million. That means the additional revenue received from the commercial users in fiscal year ending 2019 only generated an additional $160,000 in revenue over the fiscal year ending 2018. And those numbers you can see on the stormwater utility budget summary slide that he presented. Looks to me like those revenue numbers reported from fiscal year 2019, 2020, and 2021 are either incorrect or the commercial users weren't paying their fair share in fees. One last thing. Has council received any further reports or recommendations since 2017 from the Stormwater Stakeholder Committee on the stormwater maintenance performed by the city staff, and have they determined if the city should be doing more? If not, you should have, because according to the information on the website for Public Works about the Stormwater Shareholder Committee, they should have been meeting monthly since 2017, and they haven't. So thank you for your time.
Does anyone else desire to speak?
Evan Foster, 610 Devereaux Street. I've been a general contractor now since 2013. Taken a lot of classes, dealt with a lot of individuals around the state, a few other states. And I've never had to deal with the issues that I've had to deal with here in Wayne, in Goldsboro, in the city of Goldsboro. It's ridiculous. We have a department of inspectors that don't know code. They tell you to do something, you ask them for the code for it, they can't give it to you. That's unacceptable. Plain and simple. You're requiring people to get permits when they don't even need to pull permits, which is costing them money, valuable time that they need to be doing business. People want to do business in Goldsboro. Goldsboro should be business friendly. But the city is slowing people up from doing business, and that is terrible. With the process, going through planning, taking 2 months to then going through inspections, having to write up a report. You're telling me it takes 3 to 4 days to write up a report. Get your inspectors some iPads, some laptops. While they're there, they should write a report, and the report should be sent back to the office, and the person should be able to pick it up right then and there on the spot. I've asked for codes. They sent me codes that had nothing to do with what they stated needed to be done in these buildings. Nothing, absolutely nothing. but you say you have 15 years experience and this is the way you've done it, that doesn't mean anything. I can't help that you don't know the codes. I do. And when I ask for them, I expect them. I don't care about if you feel something should be done or it's your opinion. No, that's not the way things go. That's why you have rules, regulations, policies, and procedures when it comes to building. I'm extremely disappointed in the process that citizens have to go through. It is terrible. Things need to change. This needs to be looked at immediately. Also, your Mr. Talon just spoke about it. Having to put in bushes when you're doing construction. I think you got that from Cary or somewhere. That's ridiculous. This is the city of Goldsboro. I was a general contractor for a lady. Her building was 60 years old, but you require landscaping. She had to spend $5,000 on bushes. I said, why? She has a fence all the way around her property. But you're not asking nobody downtown to put in landscaping. It's ridiculous. This needs to change, and it needs to change immediately. I will be back. I will continue to write emails. I sent the city manager an email today and the director of inspections because I'm tired of it. And I know citizens that are tired of it also. This place should be business friendly. The city should want businesses to come along, help them out. I'm not saying break any rules or anything because it's all about safety. But still, the way things are going, you ask for a permit for ceiling tiles. To replace a ceiling tile? You ask for a permit to put in a exit light. But code doesn't state that you need it. Ask for HVAC to be serviced by a licensed HVAC technician. But nowhere in code does it say that. But you tell me that's the way you've been doing it for 15 years. That is totally unacceptable. So thank you, and please take a look at it.
Let me ask you a question. Are you prepared to give us a listing of all those complaints that you, by specific?
Yes, and I can give you emails, text messages. I can show you the codes that were sent to me that were incorrect. I even, the head inspector sent me an electrical code from a PSI exam. That is the exam you take to pass your license. That has nothing to do with the actual North Carolina code.
I think that giving us some examples of what you're speaking of, or the examples that the inspection department can look at would be helpful.
Yes, sir. I will email that to y'all tomorrow.
All right, thank you, sir.
That's great.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else? If not, I'll close the public comment period and we move to the consent agenda. Approval.
Consent agenda items E through L are presented for council approval.
We've heard the consent agenda items. Do I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
Move to approve consent agenda items E through L, E through K.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? All in favor of approving the agenda items as stated, raise your hand, please. Would you call a roll?
Mayor Ham?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak?
Yes.
Councilmember Broadway?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Gaylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
The consent agenda is approved. We have no items requiring individual action. City manager report.
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank everyone who participated in the MLK event. It went off very well and was very well received on the Facebook page. Again, we had to do it virtually because of COVID. The 2020 CAPER assessment response will be posted tomorrow under important announcements. I'd like to thank the Public Works and Parks and Recs Department for how they handled Winter Storm Jasper, salting the roads before the storm, plowing the roads during the storm, plowing the streets, sidewalks in downtown. It all looked great by Saturday afternoon, so much appreciated by those two departments. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, we have no ceremonial documents that I'm aware of, so we'll move to the mayor and council members' comments. I'll start with Councilman Broadway.
Well, I would like to congratulate all of our winners. And it's amazing, these are the people you see out on the street, people you see working, and the people that are there all the time. And they're our go-to employees. But I'd like to also congratulate our public works people. We had no problems on the roads this time. The roads were well done. And just like to thank everybody. Just try to be safe this weekend. That's all I have to say.
I just want to put the city of Goldsboro on alert that one of Goldsboro's own, Mr. Jaron Reed, number 90 of the Kansas City Chiefs, is one step closer to advancing to the Super Bowl. They beat my team, the Bills, yesterday, but I'm still very excited to see a product of Goldsboro be a step closer to victory. In closing, I also want to encourage everyone to be in compliance with the recommendations set forth to keep this virus under control. Remember, it is not always about you, but for the safety of others as well. That's all I have.
Councilwoman Matthews.
No comment, thank you.
Mr. Gaylor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. My first comment will just simply be congratulations and a thank you to the amazing employees that we thank tonight. You know, recognizing the right people for the right actions is so important in any organization, and just thank you to all of you who took the time to make those submissions, as well as, of course, the people who warranted them. So again, thank you. And lastly, there's been two things that over the last 2 weeks I have gotten phone calls about that I really think are important to point out tonight. One of them is the work of our public works folks, getting sidewalks safe, getting the roads safe during the winter storm. Last weekend I was stuck in Greensboro. It's a different storm, but nonetheless, and they couldn't do it. Goldsboro this time, it looked like it was just second nature. And so thank you to the folks that put a lot of time in and a lot of early hours making sure that that worked. Our city looked fantastic and handled it beautifully. Next, the audits. It's not something that we've discussed tonight because it wasn't a specific agenda item, but I just want to reassure those that are listening that the audits are absolutely being addressed. It is something that is being talked about almost daily, even if it's not an agenda item here in the actual session. The 19 audit is, of course, complete. The 20 audit is nearest makes no difference to complete. That one is going to be submitted very, very soon. Those with questions, please reach out to your council member. That is absolutely something that is on every one of our minds and that we are taking very seriously and want to bring to a very swift conclusion. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just say a couple things already been mentioned. We've paid recognition to our public works people, our police, our fire, during this snow weekend we had. I especially am appreciative of the work that they've done, but I want to commend our public, our citizens, for staying off the roads as much as possible. I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager, but I don't believe we've had any serious accidents over the weekend that I'm aware of.
No injuries.
No injuries. Yeah, no injuries is really what I was talking about. No serious injuries. I did hear a fire truck go out once, but I don't know. I don't think there was any serious problems with that. But I thank the citizens of Goldsboro for adhering to the warnings that they got about the pending weather and the success we had getting through it. So with that, there being no more business, I'll adjourn the meeting.